The story will be told from the perspective of the main female character.
I had no intention of letting my family know about my accomplishments. They spent years ridiculing my mediocre career path. They constantly reminded me that I wasted my talent. However, life often brings unexpected confrontations. It forces things into the open when you least expect them. The annual Prescott family barbecue was underway. The summer air held the heavy scent of grilling. It also held barely hidden criticism. Relatives filled our expansive backyard. This yard was a source of great pride for my parents. People held paper plates and plastic cups. Their laughter drifted over the pristine grass. "Look, there's Emily." Mother's voice carried her usual disappointment. I walked up holding the basic pasta salad I brought. "Still working as a secretary, dear." I smoothed my simple sundress. I wore it specifically to appear unremarkable. I forced a smile. At 32, I was an expert at looking exactly like the failure they thought I was. I was supposedly an administrative assistant at Sterling Solutions. My sister Jessica arrived quickly. Her designer handbag swung from her arm. Her recent marketing director promotion seemed to shine from her expensive hair highlights. "Mom," she said, "you won't believe my day at work." The CEO praised my new campaign personally. I fought back a smirk. I remembered reading that specific email just hours ago. The compliment came from her immediate supervisor. She did not realize it was not the CEO. "That is wonderful, sweetie." Mother beamed, forgetting I was standing there. "You have always had such drive." Her gaze flickered to me, then quickly away. The truth was different. I was not just an administrative assistant at Sterling Solutions. I actually owned the company. I bought it 3 years earlier. I used several shell corporations to hide the purchase. I worked hard for years. I built my wealth through smart investing and careful acquisitions. Sterling Solutions was my most recent purchase. I chose to keep my ownership secret. This approach made things simpler. No one had expectations of me. Family members never asked for favors or jobs. I quietly managed a $450 million business. My family still saw me as their biggest failure. Aunt Carol approached me, wine sloshed from her glass. "Emily," she asked, "have you considered business courses? You could stop just answering phones." They didn't know I held 2 MBAs and a PhD in business strategy. "I am perfectly happy where I am, Aunt Carol." "That is precisely your problem," Father added, holding his burger. "No ambition at all. Your sister earns a 6-figure salary already. You are still moving papers around." "I earned 8 figures last year." Jessica basked in the praise. "Actually," she announced, "we have a massive company meeting next week. The CEO is finally showing up in person. Everyone is so excited." Yes, I had decided it was time to stop hiding at Sterling Solutions. The company had grown much larger under my supervision. I had run everything using trusted managers and virtual meetings, but now changes were needed. I had to take on a more visible role. "Will you even get a chance to see the CEO?" my mother inquired with false concern. "I mean, from your tiny desk in the corner." Before I could answer, a sleek black Tesla pulled into the driveway. My pulse quickened. I instantly recognized the vehicle. Why was Andrew here? He was Jessica's direct supervisor. He was also one of the few people who knew my real identity. Jessica quickly straightened up, adjusting her hair. "Oh my God, that is my boss," she whispered. "What is he doing at our house?" Andrew stepped out of the car. He wore impeccably expensive weekend clothing. His outfit likely cost more than my parents' monthly mortgage payment. His eyes searched the group until they found me. He gave a wide smile. "Madam Prescott," he called out, walking toward us. "I did not expect to find you here today." Father's fingers went limp. His hot dog dropped onto the grass. Jessica's face completely lost color. My mother's wine glass slipped from her hand. It shattered on the patio. The crash echoed loudly across the suddenly silent yard. I inhaled deeply. I smoothed my deliberately simple sundress, then I smiled. "Hello, Andrew. Welcome to my family's barbecue." The following silence was stunning. Years of careful secrecy collapsed in an instant. I felt every single eye in the backyard focused on me. Their minds were racing to understand this news. Jessica was the first to speak. Her voice came out as a small squeak. You are the CEO, but that is impossible. You are just a secretary." I turned to look at her, keeping my expression calm. "Actually, Jessica, I am your boss. I have owned Sterling Solutions for the past 3 years." Father's face had turned an intense shade of purple. "What kind of sick joke is this?" he demanded. Andrew stepped forward. His presence emphasized the revelation. "It is completely true, sir. Your daughter is one of the sharpest CEOs I have ever worked with. Sterling Solutions has successfully tripled its market valuation under her leadership." Mother grabbed the nearest chair to steady herself. But you bring generic grocery store pasta salad to parties. You live in that small apartment. You wear clothes from Target." I straightened my shoulders. I finally allowed my true self to show through. "I choose to live a simple life, Mom. It is not a necessity." Whispers immediately spread through the relatives like wildfire. Aunt Carol was desperately searching for Sterling Solutions on her phone. Uncle Robert nearly choked on his beer. Jessica looked like she was about to faint. Andrew seemed to realize he had just set off a bomb at a family party. He cleared his throat nervously. "My apologies if I overstepped, Madam Prescott. I saw the address on old company files. I thought I would drop by to discuss the Crestwood deal." Before I could respond, Jessica suddenly burst out. Her voice was sharp with anger and disbelief. "This is insane. I have worked tirelessly for 3 years climbing the corporate ranks, and you have been what? Secretly observing me, laughing at my effort." I met her gaze firmly. "No, Jessica, I have been operating a major corporation. Your performance reviews, all promotions, and your salary increases were strictly based on merit, or lack thereof." I paused pointedly. "This includes the instances when you took credit for your team's accomplishments." She instantly flushed deep red. Everyone in the family knew Jessica regularly claimed credit for others' work. She had done it since childhood. "You are lying," Father suddenly declared. His voice was rough with denial. "Emily, she can barely decide what outfit to wear in the morning." That familiar sting hit me again, but I was done pretending to be less. "Would you like to examine my financial statements, Dad? Or perhaps the company's quarterly reports? I am certain Aunt Carol has found plenty of articles by now." Aunt Carol was indeed staring at her phone. Her face was turning pale with every second. "Sterling Solutions is valued at— oh my God." Mother finally recovered her voice. "But why did you keep this secret? Why pretend to be less successful?" I looked around at my family. These were the people who spent years dismissing me. They belittled my choices. They treated me as if I were somehow inadequate because I did not announce my plans. "Would any of you have believed me?" I asked them quietly. "When I left Blackwell & Co. to open my own investment firm, you told everyone I got fired. When I moved into a smaller apartment to save money for corporate acquisitions, you called me a failure. When I spent late nights developing my company, you said I had no social life." Andrew shifted nervously. He clearly realized he was watching a very intimate family conflict. "Perhaps I should come back another time." "No, stay," I said firmly. "We might as well finish this discussion now." I faced my family again. "I kept my success private because I needed to achieve it on my terms. I did not want to manage your expectations or your demands. Honestly, watching how you treated me when you thought I was just a secretary told me everything I needed to know about who you truly are." Jessica's husband, Mike, who had been observing the drama silently, spoke up suddenly. "Wait, if you are the CEO, then that means—" His voice faded as the realization hit him. "Yes," I confirmed. "I am the person who vetoed your request for a private corner office last month. The company could not justify that for a mid-level manager." The assembled relatives burst into poorly hidden chuckles. Jessica's face became bright crimson. "I assume the Crestwood deal you mentioned relates to the potential merger." Uncle Robert, a corporate lawyer, jumped in. The family was already circling like vultures. They saw an opportunity in their newly found successful relative. "That information is confidential company business," I replied calmly. "Just like the raise Jessica has been boasting about requesting will certainly not be happening." "You cannot do that," Jessica protested. "That is discrimination." "No, sister, I can," I stated. "Your last 3 projects exceeded their budget. Your team has the highest employee turnover rate in the entire company. And your most recent campaign proposal was rejected because it was noticeably similar to our competitor's campaign from last year." I smiled thinly. "I may be your sister, but I am also your boss. Unlike our family dynamic, my company operates based on merit, not on favoritism." Mother slumped into a nearby chair. She fanned herself dramatically. All this time, all the terrible things we said. Yes, I interrupted. All the times you called me useless, all the family gatherings where I was put at the kids' table because I had not accomplished enough to sit with the adults, all the nasty remarks about my clothes, my car, and the choices I made. I proudly smoothed my target dress. I remember every single instance. A heavy silence filled with regret followed. Father seemed to age 10 years in those 10 minutes. Jessica was staring down at her expensive shoes. She was probably calculating her remaining payments on them with her current salary. Andrew cleared his throat. For what it is worth, he offered, your daughter has built one of the most respected businesses in this industry. Our employee satisfaction levels are the highest in our sector. Our profit margins are exceptional, and business schools study our corporate culture. Speaking of business, I added, reaching into my simple handbag, I pulled out an envelope. I have something for you, Dad. His hands trembled slightly as he took it. Inside was the property deed for his cherished backyard, the setting of so many family events where I had been insulted and overlooked. The mortgage you have been struggling with, I said softly. It is paid off. Consider it a return on all the investments you never made in me. Aunt Carol choked on her wine. Uncle Robert dropped his phone. Jessica looked like she might genuinely pass out this time. Now, Andrew, I turned to my colleague, deliberately shifting into my CEO voice, the one I used in board meetings. Regarding the Crestwood deal, shall we discuss it over dinner? I know a fantastic restaurant that none of my relatives own. The drive away from my parents' house was quiet for a few moments before Andrew spoke. I truly apologize for dropping that bomb. I had no idea they didn't know. I laughed, feeling lighter than I had in years. Don't apologize. Some revelations need to happen even if we don't plan them. Will you be okay? He asked, glancing at me with concern. I thought about the years of hiding, of diminishing myself, of swallowing their casual cruelty. I thought about the freedom that came with finally being seen for who I really was. You know what? I said, watching my family's house disappear in the rearview mirror. I've never been better. The following week, I walked into Sterling Solutions in a power suit instead of my usual modest clothes. Whispers followed me down the hall as employees did double takes, recognizing the quiet woman they had barely noticed before. Jessica was waiting outside my office. Her new ID badge already showed her transfer to our smaller satellite office across town. Sometimes being the CEO meant making tough decisions. Sometimes it meant making necessary ones. As I settled behind my desk, I glanced at a family photo I had kept hidden in my drawer for years. It showed a younger me, standing slightly apart from my smiling family, already learning to make myself smaller. I took the photo out of its frame and dropped it in the shredder. Then I opened my laptop and started my day as I always had for the past 3 years, running my company, making decisions, and finally living my truth. The secretary I pretended to be was not coming to work anymore. The CEO I had always had a company to run, and somewhere across town, my family was still trying to understand that their biggest disappointment had become their greatest success story. But I did not need their approval anymore. I had stopped waiting for it the day I bought my first company, even if they were only just realizing it now. Success, I had learned, did not need an audience. It just needed conviction, and maybe a dramatic reveal at a family barbecue. The weeks after the barbecue were a whirlwind of awkward family dynamics and corporate adjustments. My phone buzzed non-stop with messages from relatives I had not heard from in years. Each one suddenly recalled our special connection and had a great business idea to discuss. Aunt Carol called about her son's startup. Uncle Robert wanted to look over our company's legal contracts. Even my mother's bridge club members started showing up at the Sterling Solutions reception desk, claiming to be close family friends. I instructed security to turn them all away. The biggest change was in my parents' behavior. My mother began appearing at my office with homemade lunches, trying to fix years of neglect with sandwiches and guilty apologies. I just don't understand why you felt you couldn't tell us, she said one day, rearranging the family photos she had brought to brighten my office. I would throw them away as soon as she left. Really, Mom? Remember my college graduation when Jessica got a car for making the dean's list, and I got a lecture about wasting my time with business classes instead of finding a husband? She had the decency to look embarrassed. We just wanted what was best for you. No, I corrected her. You wanted what looked best to others. My father tried a different tactic. He started bombarding me with newspaper articles about Sterling Solutions, as if I might have missed news about my own company. Each article came with his handwritten notes in the margins. My daughter did this. Emily's company. That's my girl, the same daughter he had called useless just weeks before. Jessica's situation was the most difficult. After her transfer to the satellite office, she filed a formal complaint alleging familial discrimination. Our HR department, unaware of our relationship, conducted a full investigation. The results were not what she expected. The investigation revealed multiple instances of her taking credit for her subordinates' work, altering timesheets, and using company resources for personal projects. The evidence was so strong that instead of firing her, I gave her a choice: resign with a decent reference or face a very public termination. She resigned the next day, but not without a final dramatic scene in my office. "You're ruining my life," she screamed, mascara running down her face. "After everything I've done for this company." I remained seated calm. "Everything you've done? You mean like taking credit for the Johnson campaign that your assistant designed? Or maybe you mean the expense reports you've been faking? That's normal business practice." "No, Jessica, that's fraud," I said, sliding a folder across my desk. "Here, your resignation letter. I've already signed the reference that confirms you worked here and left on your own. It's more than you deserve, but I'm doing it because, despite everything, you're still my sister." She snatched the folder, her hands shaking. "You think you're so perfect now, don't you? The big CEO looking down on everyone." "No," I replied quietly. "I think I'm someone who finally stopped letting this family define my worth." After she left, I got a series of angry texts from my parents demanding I fix things with Jessica. I responded with screenshots of her fraudulent reports and a simple message: "Would you prefer I press charges instead?" They stopped texting after that. The corporate changes I made went far beyond Jessica's departure. I reorganized the entire marketing department, promoted several overlooked employees, and put a new merit-based evaluation system in place. Sterling Solutions had not succeeded through favoritism, and it was not going to start now. 6 months after the barbecue, I attended another family gathering, Thanksgiving at my parents' house. This time I arrived in my Tesla wearing clothes that reflected my actual status. The difference in my treatment was both amusing and sad. Relatives who had once ignored me now hung on my every word. Aunt Carol bragged to her friends about her CEO niece. Uncle Robert prominently displayed a newspaper article about Sterling Solutions on the mantelpiece. Jessica did not attend. I heard through others that she was actually doing well. She finally had to rely on her own merits instead of family connections. As we sat down to dinner, my mother clinked her glass for attention. "I'd like to make a toast," she announced, her voice trembling slightly. "To Emily, who showed us all that success doesn't always look the way we expect it to." I raised my glass with the others, but added my own quiet thought, "and to authenticity, which matters more than appearances." Later that evening, as I prepared to leave, my father caught me by the door. He looked older, more uncertain than I had ever seen him. "I was wrong," he said simply, "about everything about you." I nodded, accepting his words, but not offering forgiveness. Some wounds take longer to heal than others. The following Monday, I sat in my office reviewing quarterly reports and thinking about how life had changed. My assistant buzzed in. "Your mother, here again with lunch." I smiled slightly. "Tell her I'm in a meeting. I had a business to run after all." As I turned back to my work, I caught my reflection in the window, confident, powerful, no longer hiding who I was. The secret was gone, replaced by a woman who had learned that the best revenge isn't wealth or success, but finally, unapologetically being yourself. On my desk sat a frame with a new photo, not of family, but of my corporate team at our last charity event.